Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
That goes through the bathroom.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey,
Here.
Bateman,
Present.
Mr. Blair, Mr. Hart,
Here.
Mr. Ori,
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Here.
So we'll wait for a bit to excuse them because I think they'll be coming.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kennedy.
So we tried to, this was quite a tradition when I first got here. A gentleman named Corey Schmidt was very adamant about getting in front of council and doing a CIP presentation and bringing in Scott and Cindy and all the people that work behind the scenes. It's actually a nice touch that we have Mike Quangelo from Finance Commission in here because the CIP program is a big part of what this city does every year. This is probably the most arduous task, but it's actually the most fulfilling because these are projects that people like Cindy and Scott and Corey have been working on for a long, long time that are finally coming through. So we just want to go through them. I'm going to try to I always like to just give a real quick summary of sort of where we're at and what we're doing. One of the things that you always have to put into play is how many different pieces go into funding our projects. And these vary. This year, obviously, we were getting a low-interest loan for the USDA for the fire station, $3 million in grants, and so on and so forth. A big part of this is you have to remember what we're doing when we do the capital projects is we're, like when you see the Cherokee Water Project, you have to realize there's sidewalk, there's road, there's stormwater, and, of course, water main are all in there. And we make sure that every fund pays equally. That's sort of Cindy's job. This year's capital, if all grants are approved, we'll be spending $13,117,000 in hardcore capital improvements for the city, facilities, roads, water, the whole package. We're pretty excited about that. I don't know that there's a lot of communities that spend the amount of time that this city staff does, the people out here chasing monies. I just thought I brought this together just to show you. Here's 9 separate projects that are that we've moving forward with that have funding in them. And you can see from the project cost and these come from a myriad of different sources, from the Cherokee water main all the way down to the Nisbet Park walking trail extension. Those are all important aspects of it. It's very simple. You're taking your residents' tax dollars, be it federal, be it county, be it state, bringing it back home and putting it to work for projects. It's just that simple, and that's what we're doing. When you see OD&R, those are largely registration dollars that the city that residents may do for park permits and so on and so forth. That money is coming back thanks to the efforts of these people out there chasing every tree possible. So I wanted to go through the projects. We're going to jump around. We all know which ones we're going to do. We want to leave a lot of time for city council. I've got sort of 2 signature projects at the beginning. The downtown district parking improvement project should go out to bid hopefully any day now. We've worked hard to add a few elements to the parking lot that theory, if we don't do it now, we'll never do it type of thing. For example, this relatively attractive, neat facet, which will be the walking trail that will go from 48, taking people into and out of the downtown district, both through vehicular and through a pedestrian passageway. We realize now would be a good time to put some pretty neat trellises. Well, that's a great idea, but you have to get them designed. You have to figure out how you're going to light them at night, and because it's going to be a pretty unique area. And again, this isn't just the parking lot that we're doing this year. We're reconfiguring everything around the city hall parking lot, and it's starting to take shape. You can sort of see how the parking expansion is going to work its way towards Harrison, and by losing that first row that you people just come pulling in off of willy-nilly off a railroad, that will now all be for a central location on Harrison. We're actually gaining +7, +8 there on top of that, and it's going to be much, much safer. Everyone has driven down Railroad with families just walking down the middle of the roadway heading to somewhere for dinner. That will all be corrected with the new sidewalk. So this is actually 2 projects. It's the downtown parking lot, and it's also the downtown district the realignment of all the parking along City Hall, and that was actually Cindy's idea. And you can see the ones that are angled get straightened, and then by coming out this way, we long compensate for the ones we're leaving on this row. And you can see, and we were going to have a space right here by the barber shop, but the goal is to get people to come through here. Once in here, you can leave via Grua Milcher, or you can leave via through 48. You can leave via what is a much wider, much more accessible Harrison project. Next.
So, would you like me to go ahead?
Yes. You.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to present this evening, Council, about the Fire Station 63 project. Really have enjoyed working on this project over the last several months. And I believe Chief Huber was going to give us kind of a little bit of history on how we got to the point where we are, at least to the design phase. So turn it over to Chief on that.
Thank you, Corey. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Council is aware, the City Manager charged the Fire Department with reviewing the future feasibility of the 2nd Street Fire Station and assist his office with the oversight and reviewing and assisting outside subject matter experts in completing a feasibility study of the fire station. This occurred a couple years ago, so we've been working on this for about 24 months. The City Manager engaged the firm of Michael Schuster and Associates to complete a comprehensive review. The results of that review were reported previously to the Council during a public meeting. After the review was completed and digested by the manager and the fire department, a recommendation was made to Council to appoint an ad hoc committee of residents and staff to review the report and advise staff and Council on recommendations to replace or remodel the existing building. It was recommended to replace the building due to the remodel cost and limitations of the existing structure was not conducive to a remodel due to numerous constraints, mostly related to location and the lack of property. The manager continued to engage the firm of Michael Schuster and Associates to review possible locations where the fire station could fit on currently available property. The committee reviewed the findings of MSA and leveraged that information against the response times in a community standard of cover document. It was evident that moving the station much further from its existing site could jeopardize response times for fire and EMS in the Station 63 fire zones. With the limitations brought by the Little Miami River and the railroad, 2 sites were examined. The property located where the Moose Lodge was previously located at 227 East Loveland Avenue, as well as the location where the Masonic Lodge was located at 220 East Loveland Avenue, both vacant structures. With the assistance of the committee, the fire officials, and the architectural firm, the location of the Masonic Lodge was overwhelmingly recommended, primarily due to the availability to access the fire station from O'Banion Avenue and provide for pull-through bays. Subsequently, the council approved a request for architectural services, and several companies responded to those requests. After review by the team lead, by the assistant city manager, and the firm Michael Schuster and Associates was selected as the highest qualified proposal at the lowest cost. Council eventually awarded the contract to that firm. For council's edification, some of the problems that existed in the current fire station was the lack of safety for our firefighters, the lack of separation from cancer-causing carcinogens, location of personnel to the apparatus, the ability of the apparatus to safely exit and return to the fire station, the inability of the fire apparatus to exit the station during high traffic volume. The size of the apparatus bay could not accommodate current fire and EMS vehicles, causing consistent damage to the vehicles. The lack of room to open the truck cabs to access engine compartments, as well as separation of firefighters' turnout gear from the exposure of cancer-causing engine smoke. With that, I'll turn it back over to the Assistant City Manager for additional comments.
Thank you, Chief. So, as the Chief indicated, we engaged MSA on this, and it's really been a labor of love in that this is one of my favorite things to do is to create, design, physical infrastructure buildings, and what better project than a signature fire station project for downtown. So as the chief alluded to, this will be a modern fire station. It's approximately 1/3 larger than our existing station. A lot of that space is in the bays. The chief indicated the bay heights will be tall enough that we will be able to get the cabs open on the trucks. The bay doors are going to be wide enough so that they can back in. I think they're standard 14 by 14 doors, and you'll be able to get 2 pull-through bays and then 1 back-in bay. And what's significant about that is for even the back end bay. The station sits on the site with enough apron room on the front and on the rear of the building, the rear being O'Banion, the front being the East Loveland Avenue side of the facade, that, the apparatus can sit on either side of the building. The guys can check them, they can service them, they can back in and out with ease. And so that is very important. It's a one floor design. That's critical for response times. You don't have stairs, you don't have to deal with elevators, you don't have to deal with any of that. Seconds count in the fire service, and the chief will tell you that seconds count. And the sooner you can get guys in the trucks and their gear and out the door, the better the end result is for the community. You have modern day bunk quarters, living and work quarters, a very expansive day room in that, modern kitchen facilities, modern HVAC and mechanicals. All of these things would have to be addressed in an existing station that really is too small to meet the current needs of the department and to meet the needs of the department in the future. The other elements, as the chief referenced, you have separate turnout gear rooms, you have gear extraction areas, you have all of these different sort of front of the house, back of the house separations, report writing rooms, and all of that lead to a more efficient, modern operation that will serve this community for at least the next 50 years once we complete it. So with that, the other thing I would point out is very early on in the design process, we engaged with MSA to talk about the significance of the project in relation to downtown, and that this was going to be a marquee site in our downtown. And, as MSA demonstrated to council in their prior conversation with council in a presentation, that you can't replicate the existing town hall that burned and that was lost in 1972, but we can incorporate design elements and pay homage to that. And I believe they did an excellent job doing that while creating a really, what I think is a very attractive sort of L, or they call that, or a T-shaped design with the tower there, that will also allow the fire department to prominently display the historic steam engine pumper for people to see, for decades. So with that, really appreciate your support on this, and happy to answer any questions.
So I don't think it can be underestimated how much this city has dedicated to their parks over the last 4 or 5 years. It's significant. This year, the city will invest again we will invest in Lever, McCoy, and Nisbet. One of the projects we're pretty excited about because we just found out we got both grants funding. Even actually, the ODNR one should be changed. It just happened that it's no longer pending. So a $74,850 project we've already received the $35,000 from the Hamilton County Health District, and we received $27,845 from ODNR. And if you recall, when the city recently, Sean Hartness, our Assistant Public Works Director, got permission to sell some old property down from Public Works. We netted enough money to pay for the new agility course that's going into the dog park and have enough to cover the city's match. So this project is now fully funded. It'll be about a little over twice the size of the existing seating area number 1. This one will have a minimum of 8 tables, full ADA accessibility, same match, same full design. And the project actually will begin pretty much post haste as soon as the city goes ahead and accepts the award. I just wanted Corey to touch on some of the aspects that he's put it into the design to protect those trees. If you think about how much work has been done to Nisbet over the last 3 years, from the gazebo, the play sets, the seating area, and not one tree has been lost, that's a pretty significant thing. I wanted Corey to talk briefly about what we've done with that design.
Sure. So as you can see with seating area number 1, seating area number 2 would mirror that. And part of that is because the street furniture, the tables, street furniture requires a solid foundation for anchoring. And so one of the challenges that we had when with our contractor was to come up with a solid concrete base. Originally there was gravel or some kind of packed rock, and from a maintenance and ongoing trip hazards and all that wouldn't do. So we had to come up with something that was organic, that tied into sort of the park, the natural elements, the stone. And so what you see there is a permeable paver set on top of a concrete base. And you say, well, a concrete base, that doesn't allow any water to go through. But you need the structure of that concrete to support the pavers for a considerable period of time, because otherwise they will modulate and be subject to freeze thaw. So the contractor actually worked with us to develop a very robust design that incorporates a very substantial concrete underbase there. And they drilled numerous, I can't tell you, hundreds of holes, 1 inch holes in that concrete base to allow water to percolate down through the permeable pavers and sand there, and then to get into the roots of the trees for water and oxygen. And so the second pavement area or seating area will be designed very similarly. It's flanked by the sidewalk. There's a little bit of grade challenges that we'll have to solve from seating area 1 to phase 2, which might allow for the incorporation of low seating walls or something like that. I mean, we don't know what the final design is going to look at, but I will tell you that from the onset, saving every tree over there. And if anybody got a chance to see the sugar maple over there this fall, it was absolutely spectacular. It looked like it was on fire for about 4 weeks. And I'm glad that we were able to come up with a design that it really enhances and works with all the natural features that we have at the park. So
Corey will take you into before Corey goes. If you recall, for those of you who've been around for a while, Cindy certainly knows. We just decided a few years ago that we would systematically replace every single playset in the city one at a time, either using grant funding or using rec impact fee money. Make them all ADA accessibility. We've completely finished that with the work up at Cherokee. So Corey thought the next thing we would do is start working our way through the restrooms in the city parks.
So the next project is a Lever Park restroom renovation. And so if anybody's had a chance to go up to McCoy Park and see that building, they are virtually identical. Lever and McCoy are virtually identical buildings. It's a block building with some cedar or wood trim and all that. So what will that renovation look like? So at McCoy, we were able to put a new standing seam metal roof on, new metal fascia trim, do some repairs and all that to some deteriorated wood, new paint inside and out, a new epoxy flooring coating that has high durability and is improved hygienics. In that, we also were able to, one of the most significant upgrades that I thought was fantastic was the ability to put doors on the restrooms in lieu of the gates. And so we added doors, HVAC, and ventilation for the summertime. And so we also improved the lighting. The lighting comes on when it's motion activated. The fan stays on for a period of time during the summer. And then the heat is installed in the chase of the buildings. And that is locked and fully secured. In addition, we have added access control at McCoy, and that has been very positive, and security cameras to enhance the security and function of that facility. The other thing I'll note, if you look, and you really can't see in that picture, you can see where we removed on the restroom facade of McCoy the standard wall pack lights and put a down light that is compliant with the city's new lighting ordinance in there. So that really enhanced that. And we're able to do that when we repainted and plugged the holes and all those things. So it's a series of small upgrades, but it's amazing what literally some paint, a new roof, a new standing seam metal roof, some metal fascia, gutters, protect the structure, renovate it, and continue to improve that throughout the year. And I think McCoy turned out great, and I think Lever will get a ton of use, especially with as popular as the pickleball courts are there now. So I think turning that into a year-round facility will be very beneficial. And having the ability to access control and lock and unlock those is of great convenience to the public works guys as well, so they can focus on other tasks.
And Phillips Park is scheduled for 2025.
Yes.
So Cindy and Scott are going to join us up at the podium now, go over the next few projects.
So this is a photo from Loveland Miamiville Phase 1 sidewalks. This brought us down from St. Columban down to Sugar Tree. Phase 2 would be picking up on the same side of the road, carrying us from Sugar Tree down to Saddleback.
So
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought you were going to cut it off there. We never thought this would happen. This is so perfect. It was just awesome. So we had a bad stretch of water main to replace here. We got it replaced. It was causing extensive damage to residents and everything there. But we got it replaced. I mean, through Cindy and Dave, and then the money that they always acquire, because that's what they do, is get us the money, and I get to watch people spend it. But when you go up there now, it looks like that's been there forever, and that's not a bad thing because it fits so neatly and so tightly. It's a really nice project. If you haven't seen it, it's worth driving by. The grass is already established. It's just beautiful, and it looks like it's always been there. So when we come upstream from that and we do the water main replacement, there's a lot of stormwater issues that people don't understand that aren't ours. It's things that people have done in their yards years ago, turned over, and new people move in, and they don't know what is going on. Well, it's their failure, but we'll be able to resolve all of it as we move forward with the next phase of that project. So the money that they acquire and how they get this done, they do great work, and it's an awesome project. We never thought it would happen, not our career. So sorry, had to interrupt you because she won't take any props. So.
Neither will you.
Good.
So the phase 2 project is going to be funded from general funds for the sidewalk and the roads, the stormwater funds for, like he explained, we're going to have a lot of new public storm sewer upgrades where people have filled in their ditches with pipes over the years, and now those pipes are failing and they're causing holes to open up in people's front yards. And then the other thing that's awesome is you guys approved the WMR fee. So that's what's making this phase of the water main replacement possible. If it wasn't because of that, I would have had a very, very difficult time applying for OPWC funds, which usually pays for all of our water main replacements through loans. In OPWC, one of the scoring criteria to be very competitive is condition. And we haven't had as many breaks on the section between Sugar Tree and Saddleback. I can't think of any in our history here.
Yeah.
I want to say things like that. But not having a break history in recent years is something that would ding us, and they would give us a condition that it's good. But we know that it's not. It's the same age as the other part that we've already replaced that had a lot of breaks, and it's a bottlenecked pipe. So when we do have breaks out there, the kinetic energy is a lot higher, which means it causes more damage to the roadway and people's yards. So thank you very much for passing the WMR fee, because that really made this possible. It was going to be very difficult to get a grant for that.
And there have been breaks out there in the past.
Right.
Actually, at least a couple that, and close to somebody I know's yard. There's been a couple, but we never really had records until Cindy and I started working together. So
Right.
prior to that, we don't know. But it's the same age as the one that was a constant headache. So
Right.
So in 25, we hope to get out to Huntington subdivision. That will require us to go into the county right away. Corey and I will sort of work behind the scenes and start getting those secured. Everyone's aware of what we're doing. We anticipate in the future Miami Township will be grabbing these sidewalks and taking them onward, which is what it is, which is good for everyone, because ultimately these sidewalks take you into the downtown district. Cindy.
So the annual road program for 2024 budget's $1 million. The program includes implementation of our new street sign design with our city logo on it to help make it easy for residents to know if it's a city street, township street. The last 5 years, if you look at that number up there, has been almost $1 million a year on average. Before that, the prior 5 years was 357. So again,
Thank you, by the
City
way.
Council, thank you. Yes, we appreciate that. We've definitely been able to catch up on some deferred work and gotten a big impact out of that big bump.
we struggled for years with that low number that you see there for many years. And we had a ton of catching up to do because they used to do something called slurry seal. Maybe you remember it, maybe you don't. But Pheasant Hills Drive, I'll never forget it. It literally had 3 inches of slurry seal on it above, you know how the road meets the gutter plate? It was 3 inches higher. That was the buildup. So we had to pay for 5 inches of milling to get 2 inches of surface course. We couldn't keep doing the slurry seal and stuff like that. We had to switch to paving. But when we had that low budget number, our main roads were in dire need of some work. So we would spend our entire budget on doing Lebanon Road, say. It's a big main thoroughfare. We have to take care of it. So our whole budget would go to that one road, maybe a little piece of another. Excuse me. But we had to do it. We had no choice. So now we suffered through those years and we've caught up and we're in the neighborhoods. So as to not interfere with all the neighbors at one time, we're able to go through and knock out an entire neighborhood. Say a small neighborhood, we can bust it out in a year. It's no problem. People, they're happy to have it. But a larger neighborhood, we're getting it 2 years, 3 years. For instance, Glen Lakes, that's a really big neighborhood. I think we completed that whole neighborhood and going into the next neighborhood also within 4 years. So not one road in that neighborhood is more than 4 years. And that's just a for instance. Woodford was another. We meant to do it in 2, but I think we strung it out into 3 because we were just coming out of that phase where we didn't have the money. So we had to get that hill. Although so many things vary with this. Shaded areas, wet areas, that tends to wear faster. Hills with salt. So we had to get that hill first. So I think we did that first. But anyway, Woodford was a 2-year ordeal. And no complaints. Everybody knows what's coming next year. So it's just working out. So thank you all very much.
So the Cherokee Water Main project, as you all have heard us say before, the Heights has the biggest, most amount of breaks that we experience in our water main system. I think the number was 15 just
Huge.
on Cherokee.
I don't
Again, we're not going to talk about those numbers. Let's just say this is our most frequent area of water main breaks. And this neighborhood is also fairly unique because it doesn't have as many valves on the system as it should. So, for instance, if you have a cross of 2 water mains, you should have 3 valves. It's basically 1 valve on every less branch other than 1. If it's a T, you should have 2 valves instead of 3 because you've got 3 legs. In this neighborhood, we'll have crosses and T's with no valves whatsoever. We'll have water main breaks that require 6, 8 valves in the neighborhood shut because the valves that are there aren't working. So we'll send out hundreds of boil water advisories.
Because we affect so many people. If we can reduce it, which we've been trying to put insertive valves in here and there where we can with grant money that Dave acquires, we do reduce the amount and we don't have to do a boil advisory if it doesn't affect 50 or more dwellings. So
Right.
That's our goal, but sorry.
No, that's great. On Cherokee Drive, we can't do the insert valves. We are way too close to the existing gas main. You need to have a trench at least 8 foot wide centered on top of your water main for them to actually get the apparatus in there to attach the valve on your existing main. And we have a gas line within 2 to 3 feet of our water line.
Some places.
So let's not talk about that either. No. So they're very close to each other. So they don't have enough room to get the apparatus in there, and it's not an option for us to even put the valves on Cherokee. Having that gas main there also makes those brake repairs way more time consuming and dangerous for our public works employees. There's a whole lot of hand digging so that they don't have to worry about where the gas main is with the backhoe. So it takes longer for them to do brakes on this road. they happen most frequently on this road, and they're dangerous. Cherokee Drive also has a lot of issues with storm sewer. The Heights neighborhood doesn't have a whole lot of catch basins in it. The pipe in this neighborhood is appropriately sized. It just doesn't have the inlet capacity that it needs. So we're going to be adding about 10 different catch basins to this project to help with that, so we don't have as much ponding in the roadway and icing and flooding in some of the corners after storms. One of the other benefits of this project, we call it Cherokee Water Main Project, but there's also a one block on West Main Street that's getting replaced. I'm sorry, not replaced. Cherokee is getting replaced. West Main Street does not have a public water main between Cherokee and Highland. We don't have any public fire hydrants out there. Westover Village Apartments in 2018 had a leak on their private system, and they shut it down, and we didn't have any fire flow out there for them. So Chief helped out with that a lot. Saved the day there with some temporary things, running hoses to existing hydrants that are farther away. Helped bring in water supply for residents and things like that to get them through until Westover Village turned their water back on. But that event back in 2018 triggered, we've got to do something on Westover Village. And being able to add that one leg of water main on West Main between Cherokee and Highland also allows us to have a looped system instead of a dead end on Highland. So right now we have a water main coming down Ingledge, Florence, and Highland, fed by West Loveland only. So if you're familiar with that area, it's a lot of apartments. Very high density use up there with all of these residents in the apartments. They only have the one source of water coming in. So if we were to have a break at, I know I'm getting a look, if we were to have a break, say off of West Loveland over by Village University Park, which has happened before, all of those residents in those neighborhoods could be out of water during that repair. By having a looped system, now they could get their service from the Cherokee Drive side, and we could shut off a valve from the other direction, and we could isolate who is out of water better.
And we'll have public fire hydrants on this line, so, rather than the private ones that don't work. You're welcome.
Obviously, the beauty of this project is the water portion of the project, which is largely typically very difficult to get funding for. We're hoping that we'll be soon announced $745,000 for U.S. congressional funding, sponsored by Greg Landsman, which will allow us to finish the water portion of the fund utilizing 210 of the WMR, meaning we can do this project without it. And then Cindy was able to secure skip money for the non-water portions because, like you said, that doesn't typically get funded. So one of the things you're going to see in this year's CIP is two critical projects, one that Cindy's been fostering forever and one that Corey's been fostering. And what they're doing is these are projects that we're putting forward for future and making significant investments now for grant fundings that they secured. So there's two projects. Cindy, do you want to talk about this one real quick?
Sure. So Riverside Drive or East Kemper Road, bank stabilization, we pretty much have three isolated areas where we're getting a lot of bank erosion, and we're seeing it by stress cracking and settlement in the roadway, guardrail deformations, trees are leaning, utility poles, if they're in the area, are leaning. We had to have one utility pole relocated because the guy wire was just dangling out there. So Duke Energy came and moved that one to the other side of the road. But we've been working with Army Corps for several years now trying to get this to move forward. And as you can imagine, being next to a state and national scenic river, there's going to be a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of permits required. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will have a permit. Fish and Wildlife will have a permit. National Park System will need us to get a permit. EPA, I mean, the list goes on. So by us hitching our wagon to U.S. Army Corps and getting their help on the design and permitting side and the construction management side is just a huge blessing for us. We've already gotten a feasibility study underway with them. We're working on that right now. They're paying 100% up to $100,000 of that. If we spend beyond that, we'll cost share at 50-50. They don't anticipate that we'll go over that 100,000 because we've already prepared a lot of that last year with 150,000 from the city and 150,000 from the Army Corps, pushed towards as much of the pre-work that we could do at that time before the feasibility study kicked off. So they think that we'll be under budget of the $100,000 that they'll fund this year for that. The next phase that will come up is the design. And the design and construction are split with a 65% federal and 35% local match. We don't have a ballpark cost on the design yet, so we've got some money in there budgeted for 2024 just to go towards the design and in case we go over the 100,000. The engineering should be beginning in October of 2024 and completed by February 26. Like I said before, this is going to be a very long process, and we're going to need to have a lot of patience. The construction contract award is anticipated in April of 26, with construction completion in November of 2027. This project will be really great when it's done. Ballpark cost on the construction that we've gotten from Army Corps right now is $4 to $6 million off the cuff. So just keep that in mind for future. They also do not include any utility relocations in that $4 to $6 million.
Will there be any repositioning of the road at all? I mean, moving it further from the river, or portions of it, I guess. Where
The current plan.
No, their current plan is not. It's to keep it in its location that it's at now and keep the right-of-way acquisitions to a minimum.
So, thanks, Cindy. So, one of the hip word that we hear now are these transformational projects. That is the word everyone is using. So I think Corey's going to talk about now what we would have to call is truly a transformational project.
So thank you. This is the Loveland Madera Road Business Corridor renovation, and this is for the planning and design work. So, as City Council is aware, the city received funding from OKI north of $4.6 million to advance phase one of the Loveland Madera Road corridor renovations. We've kind of been over this a little bit. The corridor includes a new roundabout to facilitate access at Valley View and the Chestnut Street property, medians for access control and beautification, a new shared use path, sidewalks, street trees, stormwater, bioswale treatment areas, street lighting, the whole 9 yards. So this is really, in essence, transformational from West Loveland to Valley View Drive, the first phase of that. Well, the thing, and I think Mr. Kennedy's mentioned this once before or a couple times, these funding agencies really like to pay for bricks and mortar projects, and that's a direct quote, I think. So, but at the end of the day, we have to pay for the design work. And so what this does is this breaks the design components. And in design for federally funded transportation projects, you have to follow ODOT's PDP, which is project development process. So there's basically a preliminary design, a stage 2 design, and a final design. And so we are proposing to break that out into 3 equal-sized chunks over the next 3 years, because the OKI money is projected for fiscal year 27. So what that means is July of 2026 to June of 2027. That is the fiscal year 2027 for purposes of federal funding. So we could see it let anytime, and they'll give us a project update. We haven't even gotten from ODOT since our award. We haven't gotten sort of the initial scoping meeting or any of that. That will come, but we need to be ready, and we need to be actively allocating and planning and spending that money on these design services, because what you will see is as our investment stays constant or ramps up a little bit, it will drop down, and then you will see the sort of the curve go the other way on the grant funds and the construction. That money includes right-of-way acquisition and services and construction for the project. So what you'll see is our design costs hold constant or go down, we get those monies from the transportation funding process that will continue to sort of carry the weight on that through to completion. So I think it's really a fantastic project. It will transform the corridor and really sets the stage for the next phases and some exciting redevelopment opportunities, hopefully down the road. So
we just wanted to point out real quickly, wrapping it up with some of the notable projects that we have that we're continuing through.
Just a couple, aside from advancing the documents or advancing the planning documents and those capital projects to support that, part of this is just like with the restrooms, just like with the playgrounds, is fixing your stuff. And so we have approximately somewhere between 48 and 50 streetlights that are more than 25 years old downtown. And so those fixtures get damaged. We replaced several this year through insurance claims, but there are some that are just deteriorating, and it's the way that they're mounted. And so those fixtures have a service life on that. And so we are trying to, since there's so many of them and they are very expensive to replace, we're trying to systematically attack the worst ones over time, over the next several years, and do several a year so that we can fully upgrade them. And what I would point to is that we will upgrade them to the compliant lighting design, like the one that's out in front of City Hall. So I think, that's important. When you have nice things, you have to maintain those things over time, and that is an element of that.
Okay. Again, we had told you that we're hitting 3 parks this year. I was reading an article that City of Cincinnati is considered the pickleball hub of the Midwest. Well, I think we're right up there with them. We have a very strong pickleball community, and they take great pride in both McCoy and Lever. McCoy is due for a rehabilitation, and that will be scheduled right around the $20,000 range. That will be basically repaired, resurfaced, recoated, and restriped all in one. And the way that is designed is 2 tennis courts give you 4 pickleball courts, but they actually also play on the basketball courts. Those have been striped. As we speak, the city's actually working on a funding application to expand even more pickleball courts in our community. And that's that whole quality of life item that this group takes into effect when we look at projects. And last thing I have before Chief is going to bring us home with some police projects is every couple years the city gets allotted right around $90,000 in CDBG funding. CDBG funding has to benefit LMI. The Loveland Heights is located in its own census tract and is designated as an LMI community, which means over the past few years, in 2-year cycles, we've been doing about $90,000 worth of water valve replacements. But as Cindy will tell you, we're getting to a point right now where we need to do water main replacements, which includes insertive valves, which includes new valves rather than that. So we felt that with this 2024 as a cycle year, a year that we will get allotted a certain amount of money, right around 90 grand. We thought this was an excellent opportunity to do a real connectivity project up in the Heights, which is running sidewalks down Osage. Look at that from a map sometime and look at what that will focus coming down through Osage onto West Loveland. That gets them to the high school. That gets them onto the sidewalks on West Loveland into this area that we're talking about. It's a real connection. It's an excellent project, which is $86,000. So technically, this should be fully funded. And that was just a passing comment from a resident saying, hey, by the way, if you're ever looking for a project, all the kids walk through the middle of the street. So this is really going to be a great, great project, which we hope to get fully funded through CDBG. And it continues with that process. It continues with that connectivity that we heard in the comprehensive plan. And then Chief Gabrielson's going to bring us home with just a few of the police projects that we have. And I do want to, before I want to interrupt with the chief, one of the best things about this CIP is everyone has the projects they want to do. Scott has a bunch of things he'd like to do at Public Works. Lord knows Corey and I would like to do some more projects downtown and connectivity. Chief Huber realizes, running a fire department requires capital improvements, and Chief Gabrielson tell you the same thing. But they understand that their priority needs were, right? So Chief Huber's priority needs was a fire station. Chief Gabrielson's priority need this year was fully staffing that police department. So in lieu of that, he took, he understood that, and we're not bringing a cruiser to you this year. We're not doing those kind of things. We're chasing grant money. So I just wanted to let you know what goes on behind the scenes when we have to say, and it's largely Core and I, we largely have to say no to certain projects or defer them to future years. That was your segue, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to be here today and just describe a few things. So the first project on there, the additional e-bike, this is a continuation from 2023. We actually added 2 e-bikes this year. Mr. Blair came out and saw that bike in action. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
So we decided to stay. They worked well for us. If you went to everybody, my tenure here, everybody, Loveland loves a parade. So if you saw them out at the parade, the bikes that we had, the capability that they give our officers to interact with the community much closer, but then they still have the ability, because of the power assist, that they could respond to a call for service if needed. The other thing about Loveland is with the bike patrol, all the roads, lead downhill toward the river. But once you get to the bottom and you need to go to the other side, you're now going uphill. So again, it allows our officers, if they need to respond. They're not completely gassed if they have to pedal to a call for service. So what we've requested for next year is 1 additional bike. We think that taking it from 2 to 3 is just going to enhance the program. We're also going to work on making the bikes portable. They're quite a bit heftier. You can't just use a standard bike rack. So we're actually going to work with the 2 trucks that we have to actually make them where they can load the bikes and get them rather than just pedaling from the station out and back. So that's another part of that project. And the Recon Power bikes that we settled on, they're the industry leader. They're the #1 supplier of military and law enforcement bikes in the world, actually.
That's what you're going to get again?
Correct.
Yeah.
The second part of this, mobile radios. When I got here, we went through and we kind of just took a look of all the equipment that we had, talked to the officers, and one of the things that officers that took from other agencies that came to us is we relied solely on our portable radios, which is great. They work fantastic, but it's nice to have a redundant system, and then it's also nice to have interoperability and extra communication for officer safety. So we decided to add actual in-car mobile radios. So now our officers will have the ability to program the in-car radio so they can listen to surrounding agencies. It's very difficult to switch back and forth on this. So if Miami Township has an incident going on and they're in their car, they're actually going to be able to hear that. Our radio channel will be priority, but if something is happening in Miami Township or a neighboring jurisdiction, we're going to hear about it before it comes to us, before they even have a chance to call NECC and notify us that it's coming. So we've had a few instances in the past where something was happening very close to the jurisdictional lines, or they were having a high-speed pursuit that was coming to our jurisdiction. We knew nothing about it because we didn't have communication with them. So obviously there's an officer safety issue there. Just overall interoperability, and Chief Huber will attest that in a critical incident, communication is is just critical. If you don't have good communication, so now we have redundant capabilities. We have the ability that the officers not only have their portable radios, but we can also have staff or potentially other public safety entities, firefighters, that we can use the mobiles in the car to continue to talk. So we started this program this year. We were able to put 6 radios into our cars. Those are all installed or are just about installed into the newest cars. So for 2024, we need to request an additional 5 radios to fully implement the fleet. We have 11 cars in the fleet. We've requested a grant for that, a $30,000 grant. We're waiting for a notification if we got it. The grant funding is pending at the moment. It's a $27,000 grant request with a $3,000 match. If we're able to do that, radios at full cost, the grant should more than cover that for us. So hopefully we'll get that and get it in. It's going to significantly improve our communication capability. The last one on there, GPS vehicle kits. You've heard us talk about this in the past. The city invested heavily in having all of the intersections with the GPS vehicle kits so that as a public safety vehicle approaches, it gives that vehicle the green signal, improving response time. We started that program in 2023 with 4 with the police department. We have those all installed. They've the last one just got installed with our last vehicle, so we've actually only had less than half the year even with these installed. Just in that little bit of time, we have already started to see a drop in our critical response time. That's exactly what this is all about. Officer safety, for one, getting through the intersection safely, but then also reducing our response time. So we have seen roughly right now a 4-second response time drop, just having less than a third of the fleet done for just a small portion of the year. We anticipate that's going to increase to probably somewhere in the 6 to 10 second range by the end of the year. 2024, we have requested an additional 4 units, and then we'll continue in 2025 with the last of the units. Will be 3 units in 2025 to completely outfit all of our marked vehicles. By the end of this, we're hoping that we will see somewhere in the 30-second to minute response time drop for critical incidents, which again, if you think about it, you're sitting there waiting for police or fire to show up. If we can drop our response time by 30 seconds, that is fantastic for our protection, life-saving protection for the citizens. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Anything else, Dave?
That's all.
All right. I just want to thank Dave, Corey, and Mark for all your efforts in preparing this budget, and all the department heads. I know y'all had to make tough decisions, and thank you for being here tonight and giving us this opportunity to hear what you have to say. I'm really excited that we are very heavy on safety services and on infrastructure, which is our job, and economic development, which is what helps pay for safety services and infrastructure. So I'm very pleased with the capital budget that you've brought to us. It makes me happy to see how excited our department heads are with these projects as well, because it's nice that you have a vested interest and that you care so much about our community like we do. It really means a lot to us. Does anybody have any questions or comments while we have everyone here? Mr. Bateman.
I just appreciate the thoroughness of this, and I think when you look at the top items in terms of cost, I think it really does reflect where the priorities are, and so it's good to see. When hearing the projects go, we go through them and how they touch all different pockets of the city and different aspects of residents' lives. It's good that public safety and water main replacement and that project up at Cherokee is going to be the big ticket item on here, because I think that is the most vital. And when we look and see downtown parking lot as the next item on this list, it's good to see that is to use Mr. Kennedy's buzzword of the moment, transforming the way we use downtown. So it's good to see that we're moving forward on that after so many years of leveraging what was available and being flexible with the reality of the situation. So again, kudos to staff and a great job, well done presenting this. And maybe there'll be other questions when we go through the legislation surrounding this. But I just wanted to say thanks for the time and the well thought out plan.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Just to pick up on what Mr. Bateman said, the number of projects is impressive, but the scope and the size of them, from small to large, and it seems like it wasn't too many years ago that we were lucky to have half the number of things that we're undertaking. So we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and I think we're pretty sophisticated about it. We're as a community that gets things done, and I know it's all due to the staff, and so we thank you.
Well, and Mr. Kennedy downplays it, but we wouldn't have half of this on this capital budget without the amount of grant money that Mr. Kennedy and staff have been able to procure for these projects. That makes a huge difference to this city. So well done on that as well. Anyone else? All right. Motion to adjourn. Anyone?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.